If you only do one bike session, this should be it. Seriously, do this bike session, you will get faster. We know that getting the best performance in triathlon involves various different factors and training in different zones in different ways, and so surely there isn't one bike session that's going to make you faster. No, there isn't. However, if you're quite new to triathlon or bike racing, I imagine that you've naturally found yourself getting fitter and faster by simply riding your bike, and you will continue to get fitter and faster the more you ride. However, there's a quicker way to boost that fitness and that speed. Okay, so there's a bit of a secret that the pros use and the top age groupers and even myself. Okay, it's not a secret. We are talking about interval training. So changing your pace whilst riding your bike within a structured session. And even if your goal is to just get around on the bike or complete, this will still make you that much stronger, fitter, faster, as well as just making your bike training that much more fun. And we have got one session which we think will really help you do that, which we're going to share. But before we do, we'd love it if you wanted to show your appreciation for the work we do on the channel. And you can do that by subscribing if you haven't yet done so, and also giving us a like on this video. So, on to the session, and we have gone with an FTP boost session. It's a pyramid style, this one, and it is designed to help you increase that maximum power that you can sustain on the bike during your race. Well, for those who don't know, your FTP, or functional threshold power, is a metric used in a lot of cycling to measure and prescribe intensity. It's the maximum power that you can sustain for 1 hour. So pretty important to get it higher if you want to race well. We have a video on that if you do want to know more. And don't worry if you're not used to riding with power or you don't know your FTP. You don't actually need to train or to improve your racing. As long as you just follow this session, you can do it on perceived effort. But before we get to the main session, you obviously need to make sure you've done a decent warm-up. So we'd suggest doing about 15 minutes of riding, including some efforts where you build the pace, say 15 to 60 seconds of just increased effort, a few more minutes of spinning so your heart rate's dropped back down a little bit, and then it's on to the session. So it's 1 minute at what is your FTP effort, whether by perception or whether by numbers, and then that's 2 minutes of easy riding. 2 minutes then back at FTP effort, followed by another 2 minutes easy, 3 minutes at FTP, 2 minutes easy, 4 minutes at FTP, 2 minutes easy, up to 5 minutes at FTP, 2 minutes easy, and then you follow it all the way back down until you get to the final 1 minute at FTP. Okay, so if you're quick at the maths, you will have added it up and realised that that is 25 minutes of work, and obviously your FTP should be an effort that you can sustain for 60 minutes. So in theory, it shouldn't actually feel too hard, and if you're doing it for the first time, do remember just to keep it on the reserve side, and you can build into it as you've done this session a few times. And you've still got ways to adapt this, especially if you're new to it. So for example, if you think that that's a little bit too much first up, then you could simply start at 5 minutes and just work your way down to 1 minute. Or you could do the pyramid starting at 1, go up to 4, and back down from there. You've got options to play around with. Okay, so before you actually head out and do this session and get too excited about it, it's just a few points that it's worth covering. Point number 1, you want to make sure that you do it somewhere safe. I mean, riding a bike at the best of time comes with risk, and when you're riding it hard, there's a bit more of an increased risk, and if you're doing intervals, well, you're quite likely to be concentrating maybe on your power or your heart rate or that effort level, and it just becomes a little bit more of a risk factor. So make sure that you try and find a road that is relatively quiet. Alternatively, it's a really good session to be able to do on the turbo trainer, because you can then purely focus on those changes in effort. Okay, point number 2, and this is a really common mistake that a lot of people make, is try and curb your enthusiasm. It's really easy to get carried away on that first one, and then you can't complete the rest of the session. And yes, it is FTP effort, so you need to finish the session feeling pretty exhausted, like you've worked hard, but you also want to complete that session. So err on the side of caution the first time round. And if you do have a power meter, then that's a really great way of measuring that effort, because you can work out your FTP and you can ride pretty close to those numbers. If you don't have that, then try and use a heart rate strap. But remember, especially on the shorter distance efforts or the shorter time, that there's that heart rate lag. So don't try and push it thinking, oh, my heart rate's not high enough, because then it'll end up going above. So just allow for it to gradually build up. And obviously on the longer ones, that won't matter quite so much. And if you are using perceived effort, well, you're just going to have to be really in tune with your body to just think that you need to complete all of those at as close to the same pace as possible. And finally, point number 3, try if you can and find a flat road. I know that's often harder said than done, but obviously if you're doing effort levels, if you're going uphill, that's really going to skew the effort. And normally if you're going uphill, you're going to have to come down, and it's really hard to work hard going downhill and be safe. So find the flattest road possible for your effort. And then with that, you want to try and ride in your race position, because you are replicating racing. You're trying to get stronger in a position that you can hold. So also make sure you do that when you've done your FTP test, so it should correlate nicely.
Well, let us know how this session goes and how it helps your fitness. Of course, there are many other sessions and types of sessions that you can and probably should do on the bike to boost your fitness, like high intensity intervals, hill reps, sweet spot intervals, and more. But if we had to choose just one, this would be it. Thanks for watching and happy riding.